is no love lost between the Bidens and Nancy Pelosi.
The Washington Post interviewed Jill Biden, who spoke about her relationship with Pelosi for a piece titled "Jill Biden Still Hopes for a Good Ending."
Now, when the interviewer brought up the topic, Jill said, "I've been thinking a lot about my relationships." The article continues, her face nearly pearlescent, I'm not sure I know that word, pearlescent, with lustrous foundation, betrays no particular emotion. She's holding a china cup, tea with honey and lemon. It's been on my mind lately, and then Jill pauses. We were friends for 50 years. She is using her teacher's voice now. It was disappointing. Jill did say she was at peace with the way everything ended, but she was disappointed in how it unfolded.
She told the Post that she learned a lot about human nature, and that was all she was going to say.
Now here's a flashback of Pelosi practically cackling about her role in booting Biden out of the presidential race.
Many times when I'm encouraging people to run, especially more women, to run for office, nothing more wholesome than our political process than that. Aren't we excited about...
Yes, and sometimes you're discouraging people to run. We're not going to get into that.
No,
whatever.
People make their own decisions.
Absolutely they do. Absolutely they do. But I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for what you didn't do.
Political commentator Steve Cortez reacted on X. Jill Biden will never get over Nancy Pelosi knifing Joe Biden and ending her reign as shadow president.
Pollster Nate Silver wrote, "I stopped watching the show, House of Cards, after, but Jill Biden has Claire Underwood vibes."
Commentator and former original, I believe, rising host Buck Sexton said, Dr. Jill Biden was unable to diagnose that Pelosi is a horrible person.
Well, I mean, some of the comments there from particularly the right-leaning commentators, whatever. I mean, I don't think Nancy Pelosi is a horrible person. I do think Nancy Pelosi is an incredibly ruthless person in a very brutal business. And it kind of tickled me at the time because Biden had said that he was going to stay in the race, and Pelosi popped up on Morning Joe to encourage him to make a decision, which he had.
He'd already made the decision. Yes, that was the.
He'd made the wrong decision, though.
It's his decision to make, and we hope that he makes it.
Right.
He's made it. He's running. Yes, and he can make whatever decision he wants, and we look forward to hearing what it is. It was hysterical.
It was, and I mean,
it was very mob-like.
Well,
it reminded me of this conversation. I love The Sopranos so much. When the big boss orders tells one of his underlings to stop messing with Tony, the main character's business, and he's not listening to him. So then he calls Tony and says, "Yeah, John's not hearing me." And Tony says, "What are you going to do about it?" And the boss says, "Nothing." And Tony says, "Okay, then we'll talk." Tony's like, "Are you saying what I'm saying? What I think you're saying?" "I didn't say anything." "Okay, talk to you later." It was authorization to kill that person.
Sure,
it's amazing.
Sure. No, it is. And a lot of the whole shenanigans around the Pelosi pressure to get Biden to drop out had that kind of vibe. I wish I could remember at the Democratic convention, by which time, of course, he had dropped out. She was there briefly with her little sign that everyone had been passed. It was like, "Thank you, Joe," or something. And she was sitting in the front row with her, like, "Thank you, Joe" sign, having completely knifed the guy. Now, I understand that, conservatives dislike Nancy Pelosi because they dislike what she believes in, but she has been an extraordinarily effective political operator, and she's hard as nails, which is one of the reasons that I kind of like her. I think that she was pivotal in the past to things like then President Obama getting the Affordable Care Act through. I know that outrages conservatives, but it delights liberals and has involved a big expansion of health insurance to people. Jill Biden, I mean, on a personal level, I have some sympathy for watching that happen to a spouse. I mean, that must have been very painful. I never really bought this idea of her as a shadow president.
I don't either, but...
Commentator said that. But
I don't buy the idea of her actually, like, running the government or something, but it does seem like Biden's decision to stay in the race for it was like 2 or 3 weeks, right, following the debate, where he was still, maybe at least 2, where he was sticking it out. That seemed to be significantly motivated by her and also Hunter Biden. There was reporting, again, this isn't from like right-wing sites, it was in the New York Times, that he had surrounded himself with Hunter and Jill to make the decision to stay. And Hunter in particular, it seemed like, well, that could be he could have a personal reason to want you to stay in the race. Maybe they're not giving you the best advice. Obviously, your family's going to support you, but also sometimes it is the job of your family to, it's difficult to rein in an elderly family member. A lot of people go through this with their parents or grandparents, want to keep living by themselves, but it's time to get them into an assisted living type thing, and they resist it. We went through that with like my great-great-grandmother or that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It can be tough. And now the thing is not moving the guy into assisted living, but having him no longer have the most important job on earth as the world is on fire.
Yeah. There is also, I think, an additional point related to that, but not solely pertaining to the family, which this goes for politics generally, not just Biden. Staff have a vested interest in the person remaining in office, almost
not just the family, the staff.
Yeah, because it's their jobs, and people who are close to Biden aren't as close to other politicians. If once Kamala Harris became the nominee, they were kind of sidelined, and so getting honest advice, that honest advice should have come from the family, and it seemed like the family were perhaps loyally, I would argue mistakenly, trying to press Biden and press the Democratic Party for him to stay.
It was still a lot of the same people. The campaign continuity was a lot of the same people. Generally. That was, to the extent, Kamala was just set up for failure because she needed to make a much harder break from Biden and Bidenism, I suspect, in order to have more of a chance. And those people were just not going to do that because they'd be throwing themselves under the bus.
Yeah, Jen O'Malley Dillon and so on was a part of the continuity. I'm thinking more of those sort of old school Biden lieutenants, people like McDonnell and all that. But yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, we wish Dr. Jill Biden well. We'll be back with more Rising right after this.